would you tell somebody who is in the marketplace and sees all the conditions? The market's so competitive. I'm 50 plus and I'm in a job search for the first time. What would you say to such a person to help them build resiliency and find that courage and curiosity within themselves?
The first one is to understand that everything in life goes through seasons. And then the second thing, to always look beyond what is obvious. And the third thing would be to not compare yourself and your situation because you are such a unique individual. It's just a season. You will get there, but you have to understand that at one point a caterpillar will become a butterfly. So the same way, there's no way you are going to be jobless your entire life. I can guarantee that.
The idea of job security is outdated as a landline. If you haven't been in a search for a while, it's probable you will at some point, by choice or not. Most executives admit to staying way too long or sense what's coming and justify staying anyway. Here, there's another reason. The faulty belief that navigating to what's next will inevitably be worse and has to suck. Screw that. Lauren Greif has spent a lifetime in corporate and executive search, calling bullshit on stale career advice that most still use. This is Career Blast in a Half, the career podcast for executives ready to cut past outdated career advice to fuel your outcomes now. So let's go.
I'm pretty certain that today is one of my favorite days of the year so far. And that's because one of my favorite people, not just on LinkedIn, I'm talking about like in the world, has agreed to join us today. Kofi Douhadji is the author of a book called Unbroken Optimist and just recently released Tiny Sparks, his second book. But for those of you who don't know Kofi, it's really time to like get to know this person because he is literally the epitome of what we're talking about today, which is building resilience and how we use that resilience, especially in tough times. And no one knows those like Kofi, how we build resilience and especially in our careers and our job search. So, what an absolute honor. I'm so teary right now because this is like such a special moment. Thank you so much, Kofi, for coming on this show. But thank you for just you in all of your iterations from beginning to end. And would love, love, love for you to open up by sharing why you are qualified to talk about resilience.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for this amazing opportunity. I've been looking forward to this conversation and jumping right into it. Am I qualified to talk about resiliency? There's a saying that says a tree doesn't consume its own fruit. So it's not the tree's place to say whether its fruit is sour or sweet, but I can definitely, as a tree, tell you, share my fruit with you and let you be the judge of the taste. How about that?
Fair enough.
um, Resiliency, being resilient, I think, is just something you build up. And having been through the journey that life brought me through, it just happens. Right? You end up being resilient, or else you cannot make it. So, my path have qualified me definitely to be able to speak to uh, bouncing forward.
So, for those of you who haven't read Unbroken Optimist, I'm going to give you some of the high points. First is Kofi, you were born in this tiny little remote village in West Africa, in Togo, West Africa, right?
Correct.
And tell us a little bit about what was going on in your mind when you were going to school, when you were in a place where you were hungry, in times when you didn't have a cohesive family unit like the one that you've created in your adult life today. What were you thinking that helped you build the muscle that you had referred to when you said, we don't just come out of the womb being resilient? So what was going on in your head when that all those situations were occurring, and what got you to that place that
Two
said,
things, curiosity for sure, and also gratitude. Curiosity because instead of looking at my condition, I was looking at my options. What can
"Hmm,
I do? How can I change things? Things are what they are, and I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried about the options that I have in that condition. So it gets
mm,
me curious to look into uh, ways to improve things. And then that curiosity got me asking questions. That got me fall in love with books, got me spending my time in the library more than needed, spending so much time reading that I would get in trouble for reading too much. So, curiosity definitely got me going and thinking about how I could improve my condition and not be starving anymore. And then on top of that, I also paid a lot of attention to what I got then,
mm."
because I believe firmly, deeply, that when you look at what you have and you put curiosity in front of that and you ask yourself, how can I combine what I have to create what I want or what I need? Then you are going to start seeing things showing up, things falling into place and making more sense. Sometimes you're not able to use what you got to get where you want, but it'll open up doors that will lead you there.
So I know that you got curious through books. I know that you are an avid reader, curious reader, and I also understand that, of course, that's a through line for your work today. But what would you tell somebody who is in the marketplace and sees all the conditions, right? Ooh, the market's so competitive, or ooh, I have, I'm 50 plus and I'm in a job search for the first time, or oh my goodness, my industry is shrinking. What would you say to such a person to help them build resiliency and find that courage and curiosity within themselves?
Well, I would share a few things. And the first one, I think, is to understand that everything in life goes through seasons. And then the second thing, to always look beyond what is obvious. And the third thing would be to not compare things or even yourself and your situation to a different situation, because you are such a unique individual. There's only one of your kind, only one you. And the path that you've traveled through life makes you so unique that there's nothing else that can compare to who you are and what conditions, situations you are in. And therefore, when you focus on that uniqueness and you understand that also on top of that uniqueness, you're going through seasons, there's nothing in a caterpillar that would envy something in a butterfly, right? It's just a season. You will get there, but you have to understand that at one point, a caterpillar used to be, will become a butterfly. What transforms a caterpillar into a butterfly is programmed within
Mhm.
the DNA of that species. So, the same way, there's no way you're going to be jobless your entire life. I can guarantee that.
Mm.
I can guarantee that. because people in the position currently you're looking for are going to move up, move down, get out of that job. Unfortunately, we come to life, we die too. Some people are going to take the big door out of life, and that position eventually is going to come open and new position will be created. So there's no way you are going to be in the same position. That's just the fabric of life. I'm not making this up. Change is the only constant in life. So you got to wrap your mind around that and just understand how you can be patient and why you wait for that change, what you can do to set yourself up for more success.
I love that you're talking about this because one of the consistent through lines, not just in your books, I mean, yes, it's there, but also in your LinkedIn posts and other conversations that I've had, it taps into this idea of limitless potential within all of us. And I would love for you to share a personal story that really illustrates this belief because the adversity from everything that I've read and everything that I've learned was also part of what was constant for you. So share with us a personal story that illustrates your limitless potential.
Um, few few stances are coming to mind. Um, I will talk about my dream to fly on an airplane, to flying airplanes. Um, I think growing up in a village where it's so small that you know everyone that lived there and also their pets and their animals. That's how small it was. And in a community where food is a scarcity, eating a meal a day is a luxury, you tend to live a life where you just can dream beyond that, beyond taking going to the forest and getting food for your goats, taking walking to you know the river or the well to fetch water over miles and miles and doing that. And then there you are, you see an airplane fly by and you're like, holy moly, what is that thing? That's not a bird. And then you learn about the process and everything, and you get excited only to get told that, hey, look, Kofi, this is not for us. And that's one of the most beautiful my dad ever told the most beautiful things my dad ever told me. And I was like, what do you mean it's not for us? He said, uh, we can barely afford food, and that's like not for people like us. This is for rich people, and just forget about it. Don't get your hopes too high. Right. So then I started asking myself, okay, not why can't I be part of those people who can enjoy it, but I just started asking myself, how can I change this state that my dad just shared with me, that this is us? How can I change that to what if it works? What if I try and it actually works? And I love storytelling, and I used to think to myself, if I fail, I'll come back to the village with a lot of stories to tell. That, dude, don't try. I did, I tried, it didn't work. But I would ask myself, what if it works? So I went from not being able to eat to, oh, now I can fly on board an airport and go build roads in a different country in Africa, because I eventually became a civil engineer. And then I was like, well, if I can do this, how about I just go and fly the damn airplane? And it took a long time to get there, but every time you step up and look beyond your dreams, you realize that what you thought was the biggest dream you could ever had is nothing compared to what you can actually do as a human being. So I just kept on dreaming and trying things. And I've failed at a lot of things that I wanted to do in my life, which is totally fine by me because the more I failed, the more I succeeded. Right? The
Whew.
more I failed, the more I tried and failed. Every now and then, one of the things I'm trying is going to be brilliantly successful. I'm like, okay, well, that was nice. So I want to fail more because I'm increasing my ratio of success by failing more. So I just fell in love with falling forward and failing in life, being rejected. Because every time I try something and it didn't work, or I ask someone to support, or something that, or I get rejected somewhere, it opens door to more opportunity to be accepted. So failure and rejection have shown me that our limitless potential is actually only conditioned by what we are allowing ourselves to try. So I just kept trying things, and I'm never afraid to reinvent myself and my dreams. I tell people I never write my plans in the stone. I write them at the beach so that I can rewrite them and fix things when I need to, and I don't have to make put in too much work to change what I've planned. Right? So I like writing my plans in the sand. And what happens with that is that you can just, brush over it, and you have a clean slate to start from again, rather than being really rigid with your plans and having your mind set on something. Even when you're looking for a job, right, you gotta keep yourself flexible in a way that this is a set of skills that I have. And I think right now, you know human resources will be a nice uh, career option for me. But keeping in mind that if I'm on the road to getting there and I see other opportunities, I'm not going to shut off those opportunities. I will explore them while I walk and work toward where I really want to be. And sometimes what you find out is that as you discover yourself deeper and get to know yourself as you journey on through life, something that you thought was the thing or the job for you could be a silly thing, and you'll be like, oh, actually, I think I'd be way better off if I go left rather than what I planned on going right. So, uh, being flexible and being open to change not only my plans but myself as I discover more of myself and more about life, that brought me to I wanted to become a pilot for the United States Air Force. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't think I would be a happy man flying for a job. However, I still wanted to fly. So I kept asking myself, how can I become a pilot or just fly airplanes without having to do it for work? And we live in such a beautiful country where we truly can do amazing things when we want. And fortunately, I was able to find a path that led me to flying for fun. And that is something that the little Kofi 20, 25 years ago couldn't picture. Right? It's like you have to be in a specific position. You have to maybe become a pilot, as that's your profession, to be able to fly. But actually, you don't need to. You can still fly and not have it as your job, and just do it because that's something, one of the things you want to experience in life. So, just applying that to everything else, I think there's so much more to us. We are boundless, we are limitless, and the only limit that we have is that is the limit our mind accept. Right. So I went from I just wanna go to school, get a job, save money, buy a plane ticket, fly on an airplane just to experience it. And then I was like, wait a second, there's more to this. I can do more. And yeah, that led me to flying.
And how many years have you been a pilot? How many years have you been doing this now?
Just 2 to 3 years now. So pretty recent.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you've been patient, but you got there.
Yeah.
In your book, Unbroken Optimist, which I received as a wonderful lifelong treasure of a gift, you talk about this blueprint for living a fulfilled life.
Correct.
And I think that for all of us, whether you're in a job search, whether you're in a current position, this is part of our component or part of the cocktail that creates a fulfilling life, our work. But what are the three kind of key lessons that you would want to serve up for executives from Unbroken Optimist that they can apply?
Mm. I would start with know thyself. Self
Mm,
knowledge is huge, especially as an executive or if you're looking for a new position, you're in the job search on the market. When you know yourself, you know where your weaknesses are, you know
mm,
where your strengths are. You embrace your strengths with gratitude and your weaknesses with grace, right?
mm,
And knowing yourself would allow you to compete in the right competition. It's like if I'm a fish and I want to compete in the forest, then there's already a problem because even the strongest lion cannot reign in the ocean. And take me, the strongest shark, they cannot lead in the forest. So knowing yourself will enable you to put yourself in the right position so you can increase your chances of success. And then after that, understanding that the magic that transforms our dreams or goals, objectives into reality resides in the actions we take. So you couple that action with self knowledge. And then the third thing that I would share is defining success for yourself. You're
mm,
climbing a mountain. How would you know when you get there? How would you tell when you get to where you were aiming when you were at the foot of the mountain? Because every time you change position, you will no longer have the same view of everything. Like someone who is on top atop a mountain and look down to their feet, they're gonna see a flat surface. So how do you tell you've reached the top? Because if you don't, then you're going to keep climbing and maybe eventually realize that you weren't actually climbing no more, but you were descending.
mm. Wow.
So having that self-awareness, situational awareness coupled with action will lead you to taking the actions in a path that aligns with you and your genuine self. And then those actions will lead you to where you want, and you should be able to tell when you get there by maybe having a some sort of instrument with you, a compass with you, taking advantage or benefiting from those around you to say, hey, Lauren, um, my goal here is not to become a best-selling author, but I want to get this book published. So if I
Mhm.
get this book published and then my human conditions and limit brings me to think, oh, I'm not successful, then you can remind me, Kofi, what was your goal initially? You just wanted to get this published, which is done now. So you've been more than successful because a couple thousand, a few hundred people have read it. So that's like a bonus, right? So knowing yourself, taking actions that align with who you are and what you want in life, and then being able to tell when you get there, helping yourself to know when you get there, then you get to get there and just chill and enjoy getting there and not having to fall into the trap of what's next.
Mm,
Because at one point, if you don't stop, you'll never stop and you'll keep grinding forever. But is that truly the goal, to keep grinding? I like saying the juice is in the journey, that the journey is most important than the destination. But we should have some sort of destination and know. Right now, someone asked me why a couple of weeks ago, why shouldn't you, Kofi, why shouldn't you just put in more hours, fly more, and become a pilot for a commercial airline? I'm like, hell to the no. That's not what I want. You think that's the next thing to being able to fly a Cessna? But no, that's not what I want. I know exactly where I wanted to get to, and therefore I'm there now. And if I have more time, resources, I want to use that to be helpful to people. I don't want to spend a whole portion of my life that I get to cherish to keep chasing the next goal. I want to be able to tell, this is what I want. Maybe you think I've stopped dreaming, or I've shortened my dreams, but not to me, because I know how and where I wanted to get to. And then now that I'm here, I'm just gonna sit down, humble down, and enjoy and cherish it instead of fighting for the next thing.
mm,
So those three things: self-knowledge, taking actions that are aligned with what you want, whether it's a job. If you're going for mangoes, don't be spending your time in an orange farm. You're in the
mm.
wrong place. So
Yes.
take actions that are aligned with your goals and who you are, and then find a way to define what success look like for you.
Mm. I love that. I want to be in a mango farm and I don't want to be in an orange farm. So I appreciate that because I'm literally like thinking about that metaphor, but how true that is in so many situations because if you don't if you don't point in the direction of where you're going to go, it's very easy to get derailed.
Yes.
And in your job search or even in your personal life. Which brings me to my next question about the key differences between building that resilience muscle in your personal life versus your professional life. Are they the same, and how might they either align or differentiate?
I would say they are the same, but just as a tool, I consider being resilient as a tool to go through life. It's a soft skill. They're the same thing, but the individual has to learn how to utilize it in both settings.
Mm,
The way you hold a knife and the power you apply to it to cut a coconut is not the same you would use it to cut an onion,
mm,
but it's the same tool,
mm,
right? And if resiliency was a muscle, being resilient, if it was a muscle doesn't care if what you're lifting to get stronger is made out of gold or crap. As long as it's 35 pounds, you curl 35 pounds of crap and 35 pounds of gold, you're getting to the same result.
wow.
It's the weight in the material that's important, not how shiny the material is, right? So, on that perspective, being resilient, if I'm able to look at my child learn how to write the letter A, and I'm able to be patient and sit there and help them through successfully, that patience muscle is the same I'm going to use when I'm in my professional setting, helping a new recruit learn their job,
Hmm.
being resilient, trying to, let's say, add a patio to your house, and you started, the weather said it's going to be nice, and then it got hot, everything dries up, and you lose your concrete, and you have to spend more money, you have to break the one you're building, and all that. You start managing expectations, managing resources, and all that, and you're building up your resiliency to get the project done despite the setbacks and all that. And then you transfer that same attitude to your professional life, where you're starting a new position, but you're not really familiar with your job description yet, and you're having challenges here and there with your coworkers, your new environment, and all that. So you can bring the same perspective. How did I manage to still get my patio built despite the heat, losing concrete, and all that? How did I do it? So you can apply the same thing, but just in a very different way, but it's the same muscle. And going back to my muscle analogy again, being resilient, if you trained yourself with, let's say, um, if you've trained yourself to be able to pick up 100 pounds in the gym, when you go to Walmart and you have a meat or a loaf of bread that weigh 100 pounds, you will still be able to pick it up, even though it's not the same material, because you've taught your muscles how to move such a heavy thing, and you've done it over and over again. So that resiliency can transfer from personal life to professional life. It's just a matter of knowing how to apply it.
You know, one of the things that I'm always curious about, and this isn't just you, this is also other people that have this really finely tuned muscle, whether it be resilience or optimism or any of those pieces like in tiny sparks where you're really talking about like those areas of inspiration.
Mhm.
Like this can't be you 24/7, 365 days a year. Like you're human. And so, we all go through ups and downs. And I, totally digested what you started off with curiosity and gratitude. But sometimes, you know, we all have a thin skin, right? We're like, dang, like how did that happen to me? How did this thing I didn't see coming, show up on my plate? I was just recently let go, or this opportunity that I was, interviewing with for months or months or months, they offered it to somebody else. So
Happens to
what
the best of
advice
us.
Right. What advice do you have for us when we are going through those thin skin moments, when we're hurting, when we are really like we're raw, and it doesn't look like we are feeling that level of limitless potential or optimist, and our tank, our resilience tank is on double empty.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then you have this note on your wall that says, be patient and kind to yourself, because you are both a masterpiece and a work in progress. And having that self compassion and that kindness toward yourself, and understanding that we're human beings, as you say, we're not robots. And there are times where you are in new territories where everything is just different, and you have nothing working with you and for you as you've always done in the past in similar situations. But if you can be patient with yourself and understand that you should not expect yourself to never fail, to fail yourself, it's gonna happen. The expectation should be that one day Kofi is not going to be optimistic about something. But when that happens and you are aware of it, just take a break and say, it's okay. Whine all you want about it. If you want to put up a pity party, call me. I'll come over. We'll put up some pity party. We'll complain. We'll whine and maybe drink some wine too. No pun intended. And then the secret is understanding that the past is not a home, it's a lesson.
Mm.
You don't build a bed while you're putting up that pity party. You get the party done, and what do we do after the party is over? You go home, you take a shower, you take a nap, and then you wake up and you probably are going to feel a lot better. So, understanding that and having awareness that, hey, I expect that one day I'm going to be pretty sad, not really optimistic about things. I'm not going to be grateful for the things that I have on some days, but that's okay. It's not about how much you never fail, but it's all about how much you get back up when you fail. And
Mm.
we will all fail, not once, multiple times.
I know that you recently did an audiobook for Tiny Sparks, and I also know that this is kind of a big deal to, move over into this territory. Talk to us about some of the fear and how you work past that. I mean, I know it's raw and fresh, and for anybody who has written a book, I have not, or given birth to a project like this, at every iteration it's kind of like another hairy scary moment. So I just want to first congratulate you for
Thank you.
actually doing it and achieving that, because that is huge. And share with us, like, why this is worth celebrating for you, why this new thing is worth celebrating.
For many reasons, and I would say as a writer and a storyteller, is the growth in it. um it's like going through a process where every time you look back, you're face to face with the version of you that didn't know what you now know. And you are also conscious with the fact that that version of you is most likely what people now know, because the new version hasn't made it out to them yet. So
Mm.
you're facing this version of you that the world know, that has a lot on its plate to grow on, and you know better now, and you're looking that version of you out in the world that is what people know is very uncomfortable. It's like you are, when I was narrating Tiny Sparks, I would stumble on every now and then on a sentence. I'm like, what was I thinking writing this way? I could have said this way better than I did. But the book is already out there. People are reading it. Yes, I've grown as a writer. I've understood a few things that enable me now to say, hey, I could have done this better. And then objectively, I'm right. But you gotta make peace with the fact that Lauren is reading it and she's probably thinking, well, Kofi, uh, I read your post this morning on LinkedIn. I think you could have done better on this line, right? And you got to make peace with that and understand that you are work in progress, and that actually is worth celebrating, that you can tell that you have grown genuinely. No bragging, no uh, vanity metrics, all objectivity and humility. You can tell I have gotten better at
Mm.
this. And I think for me, that was like the celebration for me to see that growth for myself. No one told me. I was able to tell that, well, I'm proud of what I worked on. But right now, I can already see how my next book is going to be better because now I have grown and I know and I can tell. So that's the celebration for me.
I'll tell you this. Any celebration that you're having, either publicly or privately, I'm coming. I mean, I am all in. I mean, yeah, I might come with some disco too, but
Oh, yeah, bring it on.
bring it on. I know you're a music fan for sure. That's a whole nother podcast, right? Please, please, please. You will see the link below for Tiny Sparks and also for Unbroken Optimist. These are not nice to haves, these are must haves. And I encourage you
uh,
all to get these books, and they will be linked to Kofi's page. Also, Kofi works with first time authors across many different platforms. You must follow him on LinkedIn too. If you ever need a lift, this is your guy. So I want to thank you so much, Kofi, for joining us today. I know that there's been a lot going on, especially on this day, but we and I are 100% behind you. You are a shining example. You inspire me daily, and because of your inspiration, I feel like I'm living a fulfilled life and able to pass that on to other people. Thank you so much for joining. And please, since you're listening, do us a solid, right? Go subscribe to Career Blast and a Half. We are freaking growing. And this is not an easy lift on our end either. Trust me when I tell you this does not make any money yet. But we're patient, we have gratitude, and we're growing. And so appreciate every subscriber matters to us. So please go ahead and do that and help us to spread the word for Career Blast and a Half, where we talk about the real deal and we totally get rid of any outdated career advice because it just don't work anymore. Love you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kofi, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you for joining today. We appreciate your listening ears. Big time. We ask this: use these tools, not tomorrow, right now, and share them by spreading the love, leaving us a rating and subscribe so you don't miss the next Career Blast in a Half. Most of all, thank you for you.